Launch it to the end zone. Touchdown. A.D. Mitchell. A PAT away from the lead.
Hey everybody, my name is Colin Bashnagel, also known as Bash. That's why this is called Bash's College Football Show here. I have this new layout, new look, going a little bit different off the beaten path because I'm just going to do what I know how to do best, and that is talk about college football and bring you guys some content that, you guys are going to be able to talk with me about and be able to have interactions with me and hear an opinion that might be a little bit, I would like to say, different than what you hear from most people in college football. I will tell you guys, as we are kind of starting this new era, here's the thing. I listen to so many different types of people. I've listened to Unnecessary Roughness quite a bit on Barstool and their college football show on Barstool. I've listened to Menace to Sports and Zach Smith. I've listened to Josh Pate. I've listened to guys like Uncle Lou and even Pigskin Pete. And I'm listening to all these guys, these fans or these analytical people or just the guys who want to give you the information as it is, like Josh Pate, kind of an independent style there. All these guys are different, and I feel like listening to all of them, I'm going to be different than anybody else that you have ever seen. And I think that's going to be the main goal here. Talk with you guys in the best way I know how to, show my passion for the game, and you guys show your passion for the game as well. I've been getting a little bit more views and a little bit more growth. I don't want to stop here, but I do appreciate all the support. So if you want to continue to support, make sure you comment down below in that YouTube comment section and make sure you like and subscribe. And then check out the TikTok. I forgot to put the subtitle in as we started a new StreamYard here, but it's Bash's CFB show. So instead of college football up here, just do CFB show like you see up here. And speaking of up here, I'm going to be adding in a playlist right here of the podcast versions. And then, of course, all these segments I'm going to plan on, or at least some of these segments, I plan on trimming down to smaller videos. The recruiting probably going to be a part of the 20 to 30 minute longer video, maybe even longer than 30 minutes video. And then we have the individual segments that are more college football related. So without further ado, let's get into the college football show right here, right now. All right, the first thing that we are going to talk about is a quick recruiting update for 8/14/2023, and this is specifically over the weekend. We had a recruitment with Elias Rudolph kind of conclude, I think, for the final time here. There was a little bit of buzz with Miami. Now, of course, Ohio State and Michigan also involved there, and he was committed to Michigan for not that long, really. If you think about it, about a month or two, I want to say. I can't remember exactly when he committed to Michigan, but he had been committed to Michigan. Then there was a little bit of buzz about flipping. Now, normally I don't treat this that seriously, especially when it comes to Miami, because let's face it, everybody's flipping to Miami. We could talk about Jeremiah Smith, and we'll talk about Ohio State in just a second with the Miami thing. But the bottom line is this, guys. This kid, Elias Rudolph, he's flipping, and the biggest reason I feel like he is flipping is because, well, Miami's just killing it in recruiting, and there's a little bit of stuff going on with the NCAA that, oh yeah, we are forgetting about with Michigan. And the thing is, what's currently going on with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan is the NCAA rejected his 4-game suspension. Now, what does that exactly mean? That probably means that they did not think it was fit punishment. Now, they're going to revisit it and likely punish him in 2024. So this is not going to be something that rears its ugly head for Michigan in 2023. But when you're talking about recruiting, Michigan, who had momentum in the summer or in the early parts of the summer and in the spring, is now at the end of the summer and closer to fall camp, that momentum in recruiting is definitely dying down. And Elias Rudolph is the latest example of this. How about Jeremiah McClellan? I caught wind that this was probably going to happen within about a week from last Tuesday, and indeed it did. Jeremiah McClellan being able to commit to Ohio State as a number 91 overall player, and he's most importantly completely different than Mylan Graham and Jeremiah Smith. And I had to tell somebody that in a chat that we had. And me being an Ohio State guy, of course, I follow Ohio State a little bit more closely. I don't think you guys can blame me for having allegiance. At least I'm transparent with it. I tried to be impartial when it comes to this, but when it comes to Ohio State, I'm just going to know more. I'm going to hear more. I'm going to trust more from what I hear. And we'll talk about Ohio State in a second in another sense. But when it comes to these three players, somebody told me, I think all three of them are going to potentially leave. I'm like, no. Basically, what we are seeing happen is Kojo Antwi trying to stick it out at Ohio State from last year's class. Same with Keon Graves. Those two guys, though, I would bet at least one of them leaves on top of Caleb Brown and Caleb Burton, who have already left. And as good as I think all of these true freshmen are, Bryson Rogers, Noah Rogers, one of the two Rogers, they're going to be leaving. At least one of the two. Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis is that next crop. But then that next crop right below them, that class below them, basically you had Julian and JSN, and then you had Mecca and Marv and Jaden Ballard, some would say. You will have these three guys all together. And I don't think they're going anywhere below Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate, and then whoever sticks around between Bryson and Noah Rogers. Again, I think they spell their name differently, if I remember correctly, their last name differently, but that's neither here nor there. Mylan Graham is a true Z. Jeremiah Smith is a true X receiver. And then you got your slot Paris Campbell type and Jeremiah McClellan. This is a beautiful fit. This is a perfect class in the way that you wanted it. You know why? Because in a loaded wide receiver room, you want one class to have three different guys doing three different things. Finally, Williams Nwaneri, however you say. I'm going to go with Nwaneri for the purpose of the video. I've been tinkering with the pronunciation of that name for a year. I will know for sure when he's enrolled at the school that he just committed to. But if you guys don't know, I've been talking about him going to Oklahoma for quite a long time. And I had even talked about before I caught wind of what was about to happen with Nwaneri's commitment and his recruitment that, oh my gosh, this defensive line, if they can land David Stone and Williams Nwaneri, this is going to be a absolutely amazing, game-changing defensive line that could be a top 5 D line in college football in a couple of years. Now, Williams Nwaneri, a local kid for Missouri. A lot of Oklahoma fans are upset. They said relationships don't mean anything or whatever. Relationships mean something in this sense. He wants to be at the university that he likely grew up cheering for. I don't know him, that his personal situation that well, but likely grew up cheering for. He is going to a university that is close to home, so maybe there's some family element to it. I know there's a family element to it. It's just, what is that family element? Is it just being closer to family, or does he have a family situation going on at home? Regardless, it was about 24 hours ago that I really caught wind on what was about to happen with Williams Nwaneri. And then if you guys look at how this all transpired with him and you look at the commitments list, this was something that we expected to see, and it happened so fast, but we started to expect it literally 24 hours ago. Steve Wilfong dropped his Fong bomb on 247. And of course, the momentum started flipping to Missouri a week or two ago. And I had talked about it with the loudmouth guys. And now I'm sitting here right now seeing that as reality. Williams Nwaneri going over to Missouri. Now the question is, can they keep another in-state kid at home? It's a long shot, but again, similar situation at Locke to Texas and Ryan Wingo. And he's an in-state kid who's gaining a little bit of Missouri momentum. Let's see if Missouri can close on that. Because if they can close, even though it's not usually common, and even though they do get these talented Dorial Green Beckhams, this Luther Burden type of talented player from in-state on occasion, they miss out on them all the time. Just a local example that I know of, Ezekiel Elliott was either Missouri or Ohio State. And guess what? He picked Ohio State. Finally, this has to do with recruiting, but not exactly an update. I'm going to be doing an Ohio high school football tour. I'm going to just be going and looking at some of the best prospects that are in the state of Ohio and doing some sort of TikTok video type of thing. And then I'll also do a little bit of a high school football kind of recap with the state of Ohio. Monday or Tuesday. I'm probably going to do it Mondays because I'm going to kind of reserve Saturday night and Sunday to the NFL and college football. And then Monday, I'm going to try to mix college football and, of course, do two separate shows, but college football and this high school. This, of course, is going to be linked to college football because we are going to be talking about it in the scope of recruiting. We are not going to necessarily be talking about state championship races until late in the playoffs, where I'm just going to be casually bringing up like a, hey, like this is an intriguing matchup that's happening in the state semifinals or the regional finals in the state of Ohio. I live in the state of Ohio. I'm going to be able to travel to see some of the best teams due to my own safety and just not really knowing how to handle this whole situation. I'm not going to announce the tour super publicly, just because like I don't want anybody who, might just like have seen me to be like, oh shoot, I mean, it might be weird for me just being a small channel like this, but you never know how this is going to develop and change. And for all you know, I'm going to be, but with that being said, I'm going to be seeing some of the best teams in the state of Ohio. I'm going to be seeing Tavian St. Clair at Bell Fountain. I'm going to be seeing Olentangy's Ethan Gronkmeyer, who's committed to Penn State as the number 7 quarterback in America right now. I'm going to go see Aaron Scott and Springfield, what they got down there, try to go and get that state championship that has been dodging them the last couple of years. See some of the best teams. You got Gahanna Lincoln with some prospects in the Division I ranks. Olentangy Liberty also having a little bit of love in there. So them plus a lot more. Like I said, Tavian St. Clair, the Ohio State commit for 2025. That's going to be a topic of conversation for sure. Aaron Scott, definitely. I'm going to go or at least do my best to try and go see Cleveland Glenville up in Akron when they play Archbishop Hoban. So that's one I'm going to kind of slip out there. I'm a long shot away from going up to Cleveland because I am not from the Cleveland area. I'm from Central Ohio. So take a drive up there to see Cleveland Glenville, and then take a drive down to Cincinnati to see a game, and then be able to cover a lot of what happens around Central Ohio at least until playoff time. I'm really excited to see what this high school season provides for the state of Ohio. See maybe my former high school in action in one of these games, and then of course see a lot of different high school football games that I hadn't really gone and watched. Because, of course, I was rooting on my own high school team all these years. All right, we're going to shift gear, stay in the state of Ohio, my home state. Ohio State's quarterback battle is interesting. I don't know if you guys missed it, but menace to sports, being a menace to sports, as they say, kind of saying that this is Devin Brown's job at Ohio State. Now, this is very, very, I got to balance what I hear. First off, I want to preface this with saying this. These guys aren't a bunch of internet trolls. They give you information to Coach Zach Smith, the former Ohio State coach. Think of him as you want. I'm not going to make your opinion for you. I'm going to make my own opinion about people. You make your own opinion about people. Do your research before you do make your opinion about people. Regardless, the football content for sure is something that everybody should be able to get behind because Zach Smith, when he talks about football, he knows what he's talking about. He's still connected. He's still friends with people on staffs. He's very close with the people at Florida State. And we're going to talk about Florida State. And I'm not trying to steal the show copy. So if some reason Chris or Zach gets a hold of this, look, I listen to that show every single day. It's the best college football show. And for my money, that pops on every single day for sure. So check it out. There's a free promo for Menace to Sports. But he came out and said essentially that he thinks Devin Brown is the starter. Now, I want to remind you of something. If you hadn't watched his show in the past, he's only done this once to my recollection, where he purposely misled his audience and purposely misled, and it was to cover for a guy that he had coached for, I'm pretty sure, or at least with at Temple, Matt Rule. Remember the whole Dion to Nebraska thing that he was stirring up? I don't know if you guys even know that he was behind that. Yeah, that was purpose misdirection to give Matt Rule that kind of void to fill with Nebraska. And nobody even suspected Matt Rule of taking that job, and they wanted it that way. But does Ohio State want people to think that Devin Brown could potentially be the starter? Or does Ohio State maybe want people to think it's a 50-50? Or does Ohio State's thoughts have nothing to do with this? I'm going to guess that Ohio State's thoughts have nothing to do with this, and this is serious because guess what? I've been saying that Devin Brown is probably going to develop into that starting quarterback from the jump that he's going to make from a freshman to a sophomore, and what he's going to look like in the winter and even the spring is not going to be the same quarterback we get when they play Indiana on that Saturday of Labor Day weekend. It's not going to be the same player. So I had projected ahead and I had said, I think Devin Brown's going to, with his athleticism and the questions that they have on the offensive line, specifically at tackle, I think they're going to need his mobility. I think they're going to need his athleticism. And he is an athletic or a competitive dog. It's a little bit later than I wanted to tape this, but no excuses. Not that Kyle McCord isn't a great competitor, and I think this is what's going to make this go a little bit longer because I think the coaches aren't coming out and saying to themselves that we know Devin is a starter. I think they're leaning that way now based on what I've heard, but they're going to give Kyle as long as he can to punch back because apparently this is all stemmed from this. Kyle McCord had a horrible scrimmage. Devin Brown shined. Are the roles reversed and we're getting misdirected? That's a possibility because of something that he had done in the past. And this is no disrespect, but you can admit that you've done this in the past. Coach Zach Smith and Chris Drew, you know that you guys have done this in the past with that Matt Rule situation. Is this another one of those situations or is there truth to this? I happen to think there's truth to this because I've been calling for Devin Brown as a starter since the beginning. It sucks because I like Kyle McCord. I want him to succeed so bad. But this is just how the business of college football works. All right. Now we're going to talk about Wisconsin football. There's a narrative out there that's going around that this team has elite skill. This team has good skill at the very least. And then this team also has a great defense like they've had many years in the past. I have a couple of concerns to talk about with this Wisconsin team. First off, can we talk about the fact that Tanner Mordecai's starting record as a starting quarterback is not all that good? It's good, but it's not great. And I'm pretty sure he left SMU not because he was going to not throw for 5,000 yards again and 50 touchdowns. It's because I think he was getting pushed, pressured, and eventually beat by Preston Stone, the 4-star quarterback that is there. I don't know how good Preston Stone's going to be. I don't even know if that's truly the case. Maybe Tanner Mordecai saw an opportunity to jump back to the Power 5, and he decided to do that. I think that there's a little bit more to it, though, because I do not think that anybody should be fooled to think that Tanner Mordecai is some elite quarterback. This is a guy who, after all, didn't even sniff the starting spot at Oklahoma, albeit that ceiling's pretty high. This is also a guy that was definitely a downgrade from Shane Buechele, who was at SMU through that 2020 COVID year and that 2021 season. 100% not as good as, the 2019 season and the 2020 season. He was there for 21 and 22. So pardon me for that misspeak and that misstep, but he was definitely a downgrade from Shane Buechele, in my opinion, as somebody who kind of liked seeing the resurgence of SMU under Sonny Dykes. And previously before that, of course, Chad Morris had kind of helped kickstart that. So bottom line is this. Don't think Tanner Mordecai is elite. CJ Williams has not done anything. Neither of the Cincinnati receivers have done anything that came in with Luke Fickell. The only transfer that they brought in that did anything is a decent player by the name of Bryson Green. Could this receiving core be pretty decent? Yes. This is not going to be a receiving core where you have though I like their tight end room, I don't love their tight end room specifically from the receiving aspect that you had with a guy like Bryson Nesbitt. And then their wide receiver room, not as deep. They don't have a Josh Downs, by the way, to take the attention away, a true Z and Josh Downs situation that could really play anywhere on the field because he has that type of talent. They don't have that type of talent in their wide receiver room. But what they do have is the talent in the running back room that they had again in 2020. And Phil Longo, 50-50, right? Balanced offense. A lot of people hear air raid, and basically what you guys need to know about Phil Longo is there's air raid concepts in his passing game. Does not mean he's going to have Mike Leach throwing the ball 60 times a game and not even calling a run play. All the run plays are checks from the quarterback. That's not what he does. This isn't Cliff Kingsbury. Okay? This is not what you think it is. They're going to run the ball more than they throw the ball. Significantly more, I think. And I think that would be smarter. Where Wisconsin gets me, though, is their offensive line is not that good. They're decent, but they're still going to be in a developmental stage. And I think their best offensive lineman with the best potential to take a big jump transferred out to Kansas. Logan Brown, the former 5-star, transferred to Kansas. A team to watch for, by the way, that we will talk about in the next few days and then the weeks to come as we preview the 2023 season for the final time. This is not the last time I'm going to mention Kansas. I think they're going to be a really good team with a dangerous offense, and Logan Brown is probably going to start for them at left tackle, and that's a massive, massive get for Kansas that nobody talks about. And then on the defensive side, I like their front seven. I like what they have. They return a lot in that, and I did a Wisconsin preview. I don't need to do that again. That secondary concerns me, bottom line. Are they going to be able to guard Ohio State's receivers when they come in? Are they even going to be able to guard a dynamic passing attack well enough to win a game in Pullman, Washington against Cam Ward and that squad? I'm not sure if I know that answer. A lot of people sleep on Washington State. I think they're kind of, one of those teams that can absolutely bite anybody in the country on the right day, specifically a team that has the talent or lack thereof that Wisconsin has. And then you talk about a tough defense to move the ball on against Iowa. I think they could get a lot of growing pains against Iowa, but man, that's a tough matchup. Illinois, that's a tough matchup. A lot of people are going to hype up Wisconsin. A lot of people are going to say they're going to be 10 or 11 wins this year, and that game against Ohio State could be a program changer. I think it's a little bit unfair for for us to expect Luke Fickell to have a complete flip like this. Is the star rating and the recruiting composite rating, is that at Wisconsin better than what it was at Cincinnati when they went? Yes, but that culture wasn't there. And that culture isn't there right now with Wisconsin. And they're probably instilling it. They're probably doing a great job because Wisconsin's not a bad culture place, but still a culture change at the end of the day. And it's going to take, in my opinion, a little bit of time to get this Wisconsin team up to where you guys are expecting them to get. Do I think they get there eventually? Yes. I think they're going to need to upgrade a little bit more at the quarterback position. I think they're going to have to get back to the Wisconsin of old on the offensive line. I think they're going to have to get the one or two stud receivers that we are not used to Wisconsin having. That's going to change Wisconsin's program. Florida State, Clemson battle. I've heard both sides of this. Joel Klatt talking about one thing with Clemson. People talking about Florida State with a lot of hype and a lot of praise. Zach Smith, of course, one of them, but he's one of many. And, of course, Smith with connections to the Florida State staff, albeit. And he's talking about Keon Coleman being a dude, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a type of Biletnikoff type of winner. where it might not be the best receiver in America, but he's a dog that's going to put up a ton of numbers. And I could have told you that as he transferred in from Michigan State. He was a dog, but Michigan State had a horrible offensive line, a quarterback in Peyton Thorne who is decent but does not have the arm talent to make every single throw on every single play. He just does not have the arm consistency. And their offense was just a pitiful mess in a lot of games last year. But Keon Coleman lit up Michigan's secondary last year. Let's not forget that. I know that Michigan controlled them, handled them, and we had that whole entire distraction with the jumping the players in the locker room or in the tunnel or whatever. Keon Coleman had a huge day against the Michigan Wolverines. He's a dog. Clemson has some dogs too. And one to watch out for is a guy like Antonio Williams coming out of the slot. And then also what Joel Klatt is saying is very accurate. Have you ever seen a Riley coach quarterback not have success? Spencer Rattler is the closest thing you could come to it. And even Spencer Rattler, he would complete 25 of 28 and have 2 picks. So it's like he would have like a high percentage of passes, but it hardly ever hit the ground. But it sometimes hit the wrong team in the hands. I digress there. The point is, I think that we're going to see Cade Klubnik take a jump that he otherwise would not have had if he was still under the previous coaching staff with Brandon Streeter as his quarterback's coach. Because I don't mean to beat the guy while he's down, but Brandon Streeter was just not it. And I told you that for 2 or 3 years. Okay? Trevor Lawrence's mechanics all messed up coming out of college. He was a great player in college, but he was a great freshman, and that trajectory, he should have won a Heisman Trophy. He was probably the best player in that national championship game against Alabama where they won 44-16. He was probably the best player in college football that night. Yet he never even was a Heisman finalist, let alone winner. So I think what Joel Klatt is saying about this whole entire Clemson is a standard of the ACC, and we need to give them that respect, is absolutely true. And while I think Florida State's going to be a great team, and while if you guys check out my predictions, you know I have them having a great year, I think putting them as the favorites in the ACC when they have to go to Clemson and they got to play LSU first day of the season, first game of the season, we're going to see Florida State and LSU with a little bit of revenge and a good bit of experience. This Florida State team could very easily start 2-2 going into that bye week. And being high on them to the extent that they should be the favorites over Clemson in Death Valley when Clemson handled them, and it took a little bit of a late kind of push for Florida State to make that game close. But let's recall this correctly. It was a 34-28 final, but late in that game, it was 34-14 Clemson. And that Clemson team probably should upgrade on offense this year. I do think that their defense is going to take a little bit of a dip. I do think that their depth is not exactly there, but they still have so much top-end talent, and it's probably as much top-end talent as Dabo Swinney has had. We got to give Clemson their respect. And at the end of the day, right now, if I had to pick a standard in the ACC, it is still Clemson. And I am not going to relinquish that. I don't care how much credibility some of these people have that are high on Florida State. I like Florida State, but they got to show me before I fully buy in. I'm not going full Texas on them, okay? I'm not going full Texas on Texas. I'm not going to go full Texas on Florida State, okay? They've been bad for a good bit of years. They have to show that all those problems are rectified and they're back towards or to the top of the sport. All right, guys, that'll conclude what I have today. I think that was a very good show, breaking down the segments right there. I just asked for you to like and subscribe. I also forgot to pop up this ticker, man. I am kind of upset that I did that because I did work on that, but that's going to stay here. I'm going to scroll through that every single time I do a video or a show. So make sure you guys we'll talk about week 0 here in about a week and a half, preview week 0, Thursday, Friday, maybe even Wednesday. Probably going to wait until later in the week to preview a lot of these weeks other than week 1. And then I'll preview Thursday, Friday, separate from Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But regardless, I think that I'm going in the right direction with the show. So if you like what I've done with this show, and again, I'm going to post this first thing in the morning on the 15th. So this is an update as of the night of 14th. I'm going to make sure to just title it, a generic episode name. Like, I'm just going to bring back, though, the college football show, at least during the college football season. Life gets busy. I get busy. And that's just how it goes sometimes. But I'm here for it. I'm having a lot of fun. And I really appreciate you guys supporting nonetheless, if you guys are just even clicking on this video in the first place. Thank you guys for tuning in.